So this is the Nikon FE, my first ever 35mm film camera that I've had for well over 6 months now. I said it when I got it, and I still think the same. It is a pretty good looking camera, isn't it? I'll just leave it right here for now. So I just thought I would make a video giving my thoughts on the camera, the things I like and the things I don't like. There really isn't too many things I don't like, to be honest, but I thought I would make this and hopefully it's interesting and beneficial to some of you. It did take me a little while researching before I decided to go with the Nikon FE for my first 35mm camera. I watched a lot of different videos to sort of figure out what camera I thought would work for me. And yeah, hopefully this video will help some of you guys who are maybe looking for your first 35mm camera or looking for a new 35mm camera. Hopefully this video will give you some information and hopefully you'll maybe realize whether this camera is a fit for you or not. So I'll not blabber on anymore, let's just get into it. Just realizing I never actually said hello, so what's up guys, welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new. Build quality when it comes to the Nikon FE, pretty damn good I'd say. Fully metal body, just feels really good. Everything makes all the nice noises, sounds solid, nothing's loose. The paint, I mean mine's is in really good condition. I was so happy when I got this one. Got it delivered because I bought it off eBay and you just never know. But yeah, I mean, there isn't really a mark on it. Obviously, the people who have had this before me looked after it, but I assume it hasn't been repainted or anything like that. But yeah, looks great, hardly a mark on it. And everything's held up, everything feels tight. And I can't really say much more than that. I don't really know what else there is to say. Solid piece of kit, very well built, and anyone else you'll see talking or reviewing these cameras also says the same thing. So yeah, if you get one of these, you'll know you're getting a very well built 35mm camera. I don't really like the word ergonomics. It kind of feels a bit boring and tacky, but to hold the camera feels decent, I would say. There isn't really a grip on it, so it doesn't feel the most secure in the hand. I wouldn't walk around without a strap, a neck strap or a wrist strap, just because there isn't really that much to hold on to where my fingers are here. But the buttons and dials and all, everything obviously is where it should be. There's enough room to adjust things when needed. I don't really have any problems with it. If you're someone who has bigger hands or bigger fingers, then the dial for adjusting your shutter speed and over on the left hand side your exposure compensation and ISO here might be a little bit fiddly, but I mean it's a reasonable size for a 35mm camera, so yeah, I think most people should be okay with it when it comes to the ergonomics. I didn't plan on holding the camera for the entire video, but I feel like when I'm talking about it I kind of need to see it at the same time. Maybe that's just me. Also, Christina just sneezed upstairs, and I'm sure the mic had to back that up, because that was loud. The Viewfinder, which I'm looking through right now, I would say decent. I haven't used any other 35mm cameras, so I haven't really got anything to compare it with other than my Yashica mat, which is kind of a totally different thing. But yeah, it has the little split prism in the center, which does make focusing obviously a lot easier. My Yashica has nothing, which makes focusing quite difficult, so it's nice to have this. I was at a few car shows recently, and obviously with cars having lines in the grills and just lines, bodywork lines or wheels or whatever you're focusing on, there's always something to help. And when using the split prism, it just helps line things up. So getting critical focus in that particular circumstance was pretty quick and easy, actually. We've took some portraits and stuff where it isn't too bad. Obviously, it depends what the lighting's like. The duller it is, the harder it is to see things with any film camera, really. But I would say the Viewfinder is quite decent. It's nice to have the prism there. The only time I do really struggle a bit is when I'm focusing on something that isn't in the center, which is quite often depending on what type of photos you take, and it can be a little bit trickier when you don't have the prism there, and particularly if it's in low light. Overall though, I would say pretty decent. I enjoy using it, and like I said, the prism is very useful for focusing, but I haven't used any other 35mm film cameras, so yeah, take that with a pinch of salt. The light meter on this camera, I would say, is pretty great. I'll share some photos on screen, some before and afters, just to show you how the camera dealt with scenes that may be a little bit trickier at times, and just the slight adjustments I made to get the final result. There hasn't really been too many occasions where the light meter has let me down. There's been a few where it overexposed slightly in quite tricky scenes, but I am aware of that now, and if I come across a scene where I think there might be slight chance of overexposure, I know that I can make a few adjustments. But I would say 95% or maybe even higher of the photos that I've took have been grand, and all I have to do is literally lower the highlights a little bit in Lightroom and I'm good to go. So yeah, when it comes to the light meter in this camera, I couldn't really be happier. I enjoy metering with the Yashica, but it's nice to grab this at times and know that it's going to do it for me, and it's going to do it accurately 95% of the time. So yeah, if you get one of these, just know that you can trust the light meter if it's working properly and if you have batteries in it, it should be good. By the way, I've had this now for I think about 9 months, and I got it and there were batteries in it, and they're still good to go, so it's nice to know that they last a long time. I believe they're L or 44 batteries, so they're quite easy to get as far as I'm aware. When it comes to features on this camera, it has a few nice ones, and that was something I was keeping an eye out when I was researching what camera to get, because there's such a variety of 35mm cameras, and some have certain features and some have others, but it's hard to find one that had all the features that I wanted it to have, and this one had them all, which is quite nice. First of all, you have the choice between the camera being completely manual, which is something I wanted, but it can also be switched into aperture priority, which is actually what I've ended up using 95% of the time. I don't know if I've actually used it in manual yet, maybe once, but pretty much all the time I'm using it in aperture priority, which just makes things really fast and easy. And all you need to do is adjust the little dial on the top so it goes to auto, and then you just put in your ISO and your exposure compensation if you want to make any adjustments to that, and the camera will do the rest for you based on what aperture you pick. And when you're looking through your viewfinder in aperture priority, you can see the little needle adjusting the shutter speed depending on what the light meter thinks needs to be the exposure. So you can see what's going on and make adjustments if you think you need to, which is quite nice. It's just nice to have that choice between completely manual or the automatic aperture priority mode. I suppose it depends what you shoot, how fast you want to be. Yeah, it's just nice to have the choice. Another nice feature this camera has is the timer. You just simply adjust the little lever at the front, pull it around till it's facing like 6 o'clock, I believe, and then press the shutter and you'll just hear it clicking back up until it gets to 12 o'clock, and then it will release the shutter. It's something I wanted in a 35mm camera, even if it's just for taking photos of yourself or taking slow shutter photos. It's just nice to have. I enjoy using it. I use it a lot of the time. Because I'll take photos on the tripod a lot of the time, especially when it's landscapes and I want to get more depth in the scene. I'll use quite a low shutter and use the timer, and it just saves me having to use a shutter release cable all the time or having to always remember it. So yeah, timer, super handy, and I use it a lot. Another thing this camera has, which some of you might find quite fun to have, is a double exposure. You just simply slightly adjust the little black lever beside the film advance lever, and then it won't advance the film for the next shot, and you can just adjust it back when you've got whatever amount of exposures you want, which is quite cool. I haven't actually used it intentionally yet. I believe I used it unintentionally when we were in Cyprus, right at the airport. I just wanted to finish a few final photos on the roll, and I thought that the camera was broke. I thought there was problems. I didn't know why the film wasn't advancing or why things sounded a little bit differently. And it wasn't until after that I realised that that's obviously what I done. I obviously flicked that little button, and yeah, thankfully the camera wasn't broke, but the double exposure wasn't the greatest thing ever, but it is something I do want to try in an upcoming video because it just seems fun to try, and I've seen other people do it and they can get some cool results. So yeah, I think I'll make use of that feature, and if that's something that you want in your 35mm camera, well, the Nikon FE has that. Another thing it has, which is nice, I don't use that often, but sometimes I'll check it, is the depth of field preview. Another little lever on the side of the camera, close to the lens. You just push it in and you can see then the depth of field. So yeah, some people might use this often. I don't really use it too often. Sometimes I'll take a look just to see what things look like, but it's nice to have just another one of those features that might suit some people. Others might never use it, but it's nice to have it. And another nice feature this camera has is the ability to use bulb mode. It's something I wanted to have in my 35mm camera. This one has it, and yeah, it just allows you to go out with your shutter release cable and take really long exposures if that's something you're into. I actually haven't done any really long exposures yet with it, but it is something I want to try out again, and yeah. I mean, you never know when you want to try some night photos or long exposures, and yeah, it can come in handy. To be fair though, this camera also in aperture priority, if it requires an exposure longer than like 1 second, it will do it up till like, I don't know if it's like 45 minutes or something. It's something ridiculous. So you don't maybe really need the bulb mode when the aperture priority will keep the shutter open for that long. But again, nice to have the option. I don't think there's anything else that I need to mention. I think that's all the features that I can think of. The only other thing to talk about really is the lens, which I suppose isn't really the camera, but there is quite a nice choice of lenses. So far, this is the only one I've tried out, which is the 50mm f1.8. Really nice lens. I use this at f5.6 most of the time because that's where I've got the best results so far. But yeah, quite like it. Quite like the 50mm, and yeah, I look forward to trying out some more lenses, but so far I've been enjoying this one. I'll maybe get something slightly wider, and I would also like to try out a zoom maybe at some point, although I'm not sure if that'll be for me. But yeah, so far so good with the lens, and you can't really go wrong with 50mm. So that's pretty much it for my Nikon FE. I don't think there's anything else I really need to touch on. Hopefully you learned something from that. Hopefully it was helpful in some way. I've really enjoyed using the camera. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you'll know I got the Yashica mat here behind me before the Nikon. I love medium format and I love using the Yashica, but it is a really slow process, and sometimes you just want to snap photos quite quickly and stuff, and that's why I got a 35mm, and I think they pair together really nicely. Especially having aperture priority in 35mm makes it a lot quicker, and I can snap some photos and then slow down a bit and use the Yashica if I want for certain shots. So yeah, I think they work together really nicely, and yeah, so far really happy with my choice of 35mm camera. It's also one of them cameras that isn't really as hyped up as certain 35mm cameras, as I'm sure you are well aware if you've been looking for new 35mm cameras. Like the Canon A1, for example, is just going to be more expensive, really because of the name. There's also the Nikon F2s, F3s, which are just a more popular camera, and they're getting more expensive now. But I think this is a great option with all those features, how well built it is. You have the same choice of lenses as the other great Nikon cameras, and I think it's a great choice, but there are many options out there. So yeah, like I said, hopefully this one is helpful in some way or other, and hopefully you enjoyed some of those photos in there too. I'm looking forward to using this camera a lot more, trying out some more films, taking it on more trips and seeing what sort of shots I can get. If you don't follow us over on Instagram, by the way, I'll drop our handle here. Drop us a follow, and yeah, anybody else been using the new Threads app recently? it's popped up and everybody seems to be using it. Millions and millions of downloads within like the first 24 hours. It's kind of just a Twitter on Instagram as far as I can see. Seems kind of cool though, something a little bit different. We're also on there, same names, linked to the same Instagram account. So if you want to drop us a follow on there, some slightly different, more talkative content is what seems to be the thing on there. If that's your thing and you can be bothered downloading another app. But anyway, I'll stop blabbering. If you did find this one helpful, maybe give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing below if you want to see more. And yeah, photos from that car show on both medium format and 35mm and a few in our Fuji coming up quite soon. So stay tuned for that. And as we always say, take it easy, don't be a stranger.